I have a question, Stuart. Chris.
That's
Stuart, in your book, Moving On, I'm paraphrasing here, you say something like, all of us suffer, and in suffering, if we suffer consciously, we come close to universal spirit. Could you talk about that, please?
well, how many times have I said it? It's like what Rudy said: you either suffer consciously or you suffer like a schmuck.
Yeah.
Uh, Either way, nobody gets through this life without suffering, without some kind of pain and difficulty. And part of spiritual practice is learning how to use that suffering consciously as a reason to get to God and not a reason to defeat yourself. That's a very difficult thing for people to overcome because people complain, they bitch, they this, they that about, the pain, the difficulties of their life, not realizing, that it's suffering. I once wrote in a book, suffering is the perfect democracy. There isn't anybody on the earth who doesn't suffer from it, who doesn't have that problem. Whether or not people use it consciously or use it as an excuse to defeat themselves is the really dividing point there. And that's what that I'm talking about there. We're going to go through it anyway. Anyway, whether you want to go through it, you don't want to go through it, you're running away from it, you're hiding from it. Every human being goes through it. So why not learn to build a chakra system that's strong enough to be able to transform the suffering into a spiritual life? Otherwise, it's just stupid. It's just stupid. I mean, people suffer and everyone suffers. Most people, all they do is bitch and complain about it. That's all they do. I mean, and instead of what can I do to learn how to use this to grow in my life? What can I do to learn how I can take this pain, this difficulty, these traumatic situations that all of us at one time or another lived through and use it to get closer to God? Building a chakra system, developing strong inner life, building chi enables you to transform the suffering into joy, into love, into a spiritual life. So I mean, look, it's an easy question. It's a very difficult one for people to come to terms with. Because it comes, one day we get a good kick in the ass and everything goes wrong and we don't know what to do. We haven't spent time preparing for it because it's bound to happen. Hurricanes are bound to happen if you live in certain parts of the country, and you got to prepare for it. Preparing for it is using the mind, the breath, to develop a chakra system that's strong enough so that when these things do happen, they don't destroy our lives. We are absolutely can use them as any other kind of energy to get closer to God. I mean, the Buddha said, suffering is the fastest path to God. There's a constant reminder that we haven't arrived yet. And you don't have to go out looking for it. It just comes, it just happens. You don't know when it's going to happen, why it happens. These things just take place. Are we prepared for them? Can we use them to grow? Can we develop a stronger inner life because of the travail we go through every day? Separates those who get enlightenment from those who have 150 incarnations to get there. Really.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome. I hope this is understandable because this touches everyone's kind of problem. I know I've been through enough of it in my life, and I still have it. It comes in strange ways, and And the only difference today than when I was 22 years old is I have built a system inside that can deal with it. Doesn't throw me off balance. It's no longer an unexpected drama that I have to live through, where why me, which is really how most people approach it. Why me? Why am I going through this? Instead of recognizing that everybody's going through this in one way or another. We don't have to single ourselves out. We belong to a community of sufferers. I mean, it's a terrible thing to say, but it's true. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask?
Hi, Stuart. It's Leisha. I have a question.
Yes, Leisha.
So, first of all, I really feel what you're saying and I feel the truth of it. And then I would like to know um what you think is going on with, say, the other camp of spiritual people that live in sort of non-dual witness consciousness, and they say that there's nobody to suffer. There's nobody that exists to suffer. And they don't suffer because they're not identified with themselves as a identity or
That's, honestly, Leisha, that's what they say, but you never see them in their private moments. You know, I mean, I could say that too. I don't suffer and blah blah blah, but it's not true. I think every human being goes through it in one way or another, and 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 it's hard for me to accept somebody who cannot admit to reality. I am a saint. I am above suffering. I am above life. I am above. And I can accept somebody who says, yes, I have evolved to a very high state in my life, but the problems I experience every day keep me evolving, keep me growing. This is more reality because people all do. I mean, look, I never met anyone stronger, more powerful, more connected to God than I met in my teacher, Rudy. At the same time, he went through all kinds of traumatic situations. Even while I was studying with him, I saw him go through incredibly difficult things, really difficult things. And especially what he went through with so-called spiritual teachers, what they tried to do to him. And the pain, the suffering was enormous. But what I learned from him is you can turn it around. You can make it work for you. So I don't know. I mean, people say a lot of stuff, and you want to. I mean, I've seen it with my own eyes. I've never met anybody in my life who had the depth, the power, the inner strength, and the communion with God that my teacher Rudy had. It was extraordinary to be around him. And yet I saw the stuff that he used to go through. And I was astonished, not that he was going through it, but what he did with it. How every step on the path that he took got him closer to God, whether it was wonderful things, it was difficult things, it was suffering, it was physical pain that he had. It all was used for a singular purpose, that was to continue to build a system in himself that got him closer to God. So I mean, I cannot talk about what other teachers say, especially if I don't know them. And it's hard for me to believe that whoever you are, whatever your thing is, people don't go through difficulties in life. I mean, you go to Nepal, you see these guys at Pashupradina with sign saint, Yet every day they have to beg to live. That can't be easy. To go around with a begging bowl, to get food, to get some rupees, to get money to live. So I don't know the answer to that, Lisha. Unless I meet the people and I remember being with Kala Rinpoche, who was a very great teacher, very great saint, Tibetan Buddhist teacher. And, he was lying in bed. It was like the last moments of his life. And what he told me was so extraordinary that I have never forgotten it. That he told me when he was a young tulku, I've said this many times, I'll say it again. When he was a young Lama living in Tibet, he said to me, he had to wait hours to see his teacher. He said, today I can't find anyone to teach. And I'm sitting with this incredible being. He was an extraordinary being who was transmitting Tibetan Buddhist teachings. Even the translator turned to me in the middle of all. He said, I've been in this monastery 13 years. I have never heard these teachings. He needed somebody to teach. The pain was extraordinary and it was killing him. So it doesn't matter, The only thing that matters is God provides. And one has to be open enough to receive what is provided so they can use the difficulties, the pain, the travail, everything they're going through as a reason to further their spiritual enlightenment. And as far as people that make those proclamations, I don't know. I don't know them. If I knew them, I would know better whether what they're saying is true or it's not true. And to me, look, it doesn't matter if it's true or not true. 9/10% of the human race goes through very difficult periods in their life. Very few avatars living on this planet. And we all know what it is to go through it, and we have to learn to transform it into what gives us a spiritual life instead of letting it defeat us. I mean, look what the Buddha went through. 40 days and nights fasting in the desert. I mean, Christ, the same thing, battling with the devil. You read about any great saint and you find out what the hell they went through to get to become what they were in life. The hagiographies of saints, it's unbelievable. It's all about difficulty and overcoming difficulty in order to become a master of themselves and connected to God, a child of God. Does anyone else have a question? I hope this is clear. I'm not trying to put down other teachers and what they teach. I just don't know until I would meet these people and sit with them and find out, basically what goes on inside. But then there's the rest of the human race. Goes through their problems. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask?
Yes, Stuart,
Yes.
I have a question. I hear Rudy recommended practicing Qigong. What did he tell you about it? And what is your experience with it?
Well, he always used to tell me that the closest thing that he teaches that he's ever found is Taoism. It's the closest thing to what he teaches. And Qigong is a very important aspect of Taoism. And I used to know a Qigong master who, and he became a good friend of mine, and we talked about this, and it's true, because they talk about the circling of the energy inside and the development of Qi, the power in a human being. There's very important aspects of Qigong. Now, I'm not a master and I don't know a lot about it. I've never studied it, but I've known people who have, and every time I would talk with them, it was about building Qi, is what they spoke about, getting that power in oneself to be able to do exactly what I've been talking about for the last 20 minutes, transform the difficulties and the sufferings of life into a spiritual life. I used to have a Taoist master put me through all kinds of Taoist breathing exercises. And they were very powerful. They were very, very powerful. He was a masseuse, and at the same time, he would teach Tai Chi and all this stuff, Qigong. And when I would go to him, he and I were good friends. He would put me through all those, breathing techniques they use. I think it was in Qigong. And it was very strong. And it reminded me very much the nature of what I was learning from Rudy, or what I had learned from Rudy. Look, I truly believe anything that helps a human being to get closer to God, I am 100% for. I mean this. I'm not in competition with anybody, with great saints, with this one, that one, and I would never keep people. You can't study with anyone else if you study with me. A lot of teachers do that, and it's very dangerous. Anything that helps somebody to get closer to God, I am 100% for. I mean that. Any technique, any work, because it's the hardest thing on the freaking earth to do, to have a spiritual life. So whatever helps you, I can't interfere with it. I can only support it. Whether it's Qigong, whether it's Hatha Yoga, transcendental meditation, I don't care. Do what you got to do. Just make it work for you. Don't just do this or that and think you can bounce from one thing to another, and it's not. You got to make whatever you do work for you to get you closer to God. So, Rudy spoke about Taoism, and how he always used to tell me about is that it's the closest thing that he knew of to the meditation that he taught. Pure Taoism, and it was done in a very pure way. And that's Qigong and Tai Chi, and also the martial arts and all of that stuff, build Qi, power. Does anyone else have a question you would like to ask? Okay, if there are no more questions, we will have meditation again on Sunday. God bless you all for being in these classes, and I can't tell you how much gratitude I have for each and every one of you. Bless you. And there'll be a class Sunday. I'm looking forward to seeing you.
Thank you very much, Stuart.
Welcome.
Thank you.